Well, hey guys, what's up? It's Sam at the Farmhouse Workshop, and today I'm going to do a little tour review with you. A couple weeks ago, DEKO Tools reached out and they said, hey, love your work, love your page. Will you try a product out for us and tell us what you think of it? So tonight I'm going to be talking to you about this little tool. This is just a 20 volt cordless drill. A lot of you have these at home. But I'm going to tell you what I like about this thing and what I don't like about it, right? So while people are joining me, what's up, Robbie? Thanks for joining. Wicked Designs, thanks for joining. I'll be telling you about this little tool and why I think this might be a nice little tool if you're in the market for a little 20 volt drill, right? There are some really cool features packed into a really small product here that I just think are actually pretty nice and pretty useful, okay? Now, when I first started collecting battery operated tools, I went with this brand. I went with the Ryobi, and I've been really pleased with the Ryobi tools. I have burned out several of these tools just because I work them hard, okay? Some people are like, well, you're burning them out because you're using a cheaper brand. But in my mind, the Ryobi tools, if you're not using this as like a, hey, thanks, Robbie. Yeah, we're excited about kid number 3 on the way. For those just joining you, Robbie saw my post where we were having a 3rd kid, and my wife is actually 21 weeks pregnant, and so that's exciting. And we just found out a couple days ago. So anyway, yeah, we found out, and she's well on her way, and we've got 2 kids already. So number 3, thanks, Wicked Designs. Yeah, number 3 is on the way, and we're looking forward to that. So anyway, yeah, when I started getting these tools, I started getting the Ryobi brand, and the reason that I was drawn to the Ryobi brand is because of the batteries. The batteries last a really long time. You can get them pretty cheap, and around the holidays, around Father's Day, Labor Day, Christmas, these bad boys go on sale, the 4 amp hours, 2 of them and a charger for about like $100 or so. Jude's Woodshop, thanks a lot. Yeah, looking forward to that next one. But I've got a couple circular saws from Ryobi. I've got a palm router, a couple angle grinders, that kind of stuff. I'm a fan of these tools. I'm a fan of these little 18 volt tools. Now, when DEKO asked me if I would review a tool for them, I said, well, I need a new drill. This drill burned out. It still works if I put a battery in it. This thing still works, but I need to replace the motor in this, and actually ordered the motors the other day. So I just need to pop this in here, and it'll be good to go again, good as new. But I'm always looking to find people who are just getting into woodworking. Yeah, ones like these. This is a budget-friendly tool, so I think this with 2 batteries and a case and like a couple little bits, I think on their website it's like $60. I think they ship from China. This shipped here in under a week, which was really awesome. But I'm just gonna say this, okay? When I'm comparing these tools, this 20 volt versus this 18 volt, you can see the size difference in them, right? Nothing wrong with this tool at all. This has been a really nice drill, but this one is lighter in my hand, and you can tell it's a lot shorter, right? And if you're in a hard to reach place, sometimes the more compact size is actually really good, and just the weight of it, the feel of it in your hand, it feels good. It has 2 settings here on the top. 1 and 2, and it's got all these different drill settings. It's real easy to change. Of course, I just usually leave it on drill on top, and it's got a keyless chuck, which is pretty standard, and it's got a little light on here. Now, with my impacts, I really like the Ryobi impact, how they have the LEDs, the 3 LEDs around the chuck there. That to me is really nice. But the fact that this has an LED at all is pretty cool. I'm not going to say that this is going to be the end-all be-all in terms of battery-operated tools, but for a new company that's trying to put a product out there that is going to compete with the Ryobis or the Hart at Walmart, anything like that, I think this will do it. Especially if you're a homeowner and just need a drill for hanging stuff on the wall or putting up curtains or something like that. This could be a pretty handy tool, right? I love it for its compact size. It feels good in your hand. When I went from my Ryobi tools, my drill, to my driver, I thought, man, what a nice compact size. But then when I grabbed this thing, and I thought, surely this can't be much of a tool. It's pretty powerful. And one other benefit that this has is it's got brushless motors in here. Rockin' K, thanks for joining. Yeah, it's got brushless motors. So for about $60, you're dealing with two batteries. And another thing that the battery has, which is kind of cool, it's got a 1 hour quick charge, which I've not tested because I'm still on my first battery. This thing has lasted quite a while, but it's also got the indicator on it, right? And so it's got the red and green LEDs that show you how far along your charge is. So I've used up one of my green LEDs, and I've been using this for like pre-drilling holes and using a 3/8 inch Forstner bit. So I mean, it's been a pretty good battery so far. I don't have any complaints about how long it's lasting. My one complaint might be, I don't know how to get extra batteries for this, right? It came with 2, which is plenty for most people. Another thing is when you put the battery in there, it actually gives the tool a little bit more balance, right? The weight of the head and the weight of the battery, make it not top heavy or bottom heavy. When I slap one of these 4 amp hour batteries in my Ryobi, it gets a little bottom heavy, right? It gets, a little arm fatigue by using that for a while. So that's one really nice thing that I liked about this, is that you put the battery in and it gives a good weight to it. Not too heavy on the top, not too heavy on the bottom. It does have a nice rubber coating on the handle. It's got the forward, the backward, and it's got the little safety. I call it the safety in the middle. My Ryobis don't have that. I have a DeWalt that has that feature. And I think that's just kind of nice, if you've got it stored in a case or you have it just thrown in your truck, it's not going to, get triggered and lose bits and that kind of stuff. I wanted to show you real quick how this performed with a 1/2 inch Forstner bit. So not a super big bit, but a good sized bit, just in a piece of maple and in a piece of pine, so that you see that this thing has enough power to do pretty much anything you'd need it to do. I did put a 1 inch Forstner bit in here earlier and it struggled a little bit, but right here, if you can see this, I've got a piece of soft maple. I'm going to put a hole right here. It's making that hole no problem. If you go to a piece of pine, and where's my piece of pine? I had a scrap set out. Here we go. You take a little piece of pine or Douglas fir, whatever this is. It goes through it like butter. And you can imagine with a smaller bit in here, it's going to perform even better. So if you're in the market, if you've burnt out like me a battery operated tool and you need something quick to replace it, again, this shipped to me in just a few days. I think the whole package, $60 for a case, 2 batteries, and the tool itself. Pretty nice buy. Like I said, I'm not going to switch all my tools over to DEKO right now because our product line is pretty limited. They're just getting started. But for what it is, this is a nice little tool. Now, enough about tools. Let's talk about what's actually happening in the shop. So a couple of y'all said congratulations when you got on here. Got a new little one coming. We found out on Thursday that we're expecting our 3rd kid. My wife is 21 weeks along. So that being said, in my shop, I'm going to have to kind of readjust some things, rearrange some things in terms of what I'm trying to get done before this baby comes. But I'm actually looking forward to it. So I've got 3 tables in the works right now. One is a farmhouse style table with kind of like the X bracing in it. Rib cut woodworking, thank you. Yeah, number 3 is going to be fun. So I've got that. I've got a 10-foot maple table that is in the works. And you can see here the base to that one. Tomorrow I'm going to go ahead and paint the undersides before I put those cross members in there, just because it's a ton easier to paint like this. I'll leave a little spot for glue here and here. So I'll put those pieces on there, mark where the wood's going, paint a little bit around there, but make sure that there's some space for glue to hit on the wood between those connectors. And I've got those milled up and ready to go. That 10-foot maple table, I've been sitting around my shop. I've got these glue ups sitting around everywhere. 3 kids, you're outnumbered. Yeah, unfortunately, right? 3 kids and a dog, so we've been outnumbered for a little bit, but that's okay. This maple table is going to feature turnings in the middle, so that's going to be fun. Getting this on my lathe though is going to be a little bit scary to begin with. So what I'm going to do before I get it on the lathe is I'm actually going to try and just take this through the table saw and knock some of these corners off, so I'm not dealing with big corners, and just make the roughing process quite a bit easier. But I've got 2 of those glued up. I'm going to glue up 3 of those for the legs as well, the bases and the top piece up there. Wood Dust, thanks. Good night from Brazil. Yeah, thanks for joining. So that's kind of what's going on my to-do list. I'm not really looking forward to gluing that top together for that 10-foot table, just because you get 10 feet of 1.5-inch thick maple, and it gets pretty heavy. The last one I did, I estimated it around 200 pounds. And so, a one-man shop dealing with a 200-pound glue up is kind of overwhelming. But, you can set up sawhorses and, manipulate it a little bit, find a way to manipulate it that way. I don't know if y'all work with assembly tables in your shop. In my shop, I don't have room for one. But I'll tell you what I have done, right? So with my 2 sawhorses, I can set up them about 6 feet apart. So I've got a couple feet overhang on both sides. And then screw some 2x4s down on the top of it to make like a open frame, I guess you could say. And that right there, I'll extend the 2 cross pieces across the table, or across the sawhorses, out to about 4 feet. And then I'll build it all up so that it's all flush. So even though I don't have an assembly table, it doesn't take much to make just a makeshift one and make your life a lot easier. Once it's on there, it's pretty easy to flip over and whatnot. Well, I won't say pretty easy, because anything that's 10 feet long and 3.5 feet wide gets kind of tricky. But yeah, I've got that in the works, and I'll probably be gluing it up this week. I won't put that on live, or I won't put that anywhere, because I might say a couple things that I regret saying, especially on camera. But be on the lookout for progress with that build. Thankfully, there's no benches along with it. But they did ask me, after I bid that project, they said, hey, could you also do maybe a butcher block for us for our kitchen? So I'm going to do a freestanding butcher block, little island, about 2 feet by 3 feet or so. And so that'll be a nice little addition to their home as well. Welcome Lolo Taylor 84. Thanks for joining tonight. Talking about some projects that I've got coming up in the shop, and talking about the kid that I have coming up in my life. So anyway, yeah, all this maple started out as rough sawn stock. And so to get the rough sawn stock down to a finished product, it took a lot of passes through my planer, passes across the joiner. Once the edges were joined up, I went across the table saw. And so this is 32 inches long here, or 34 inches long. So I'll glue these up. The base pieces are 6.5 inches wide. And yeah, I'll glue those up and trim the ends to 32 inches, and then cut the profile in them. So one thing that I learned in the last project that I did with the curved edges on the tables is to just make templates for everything, right? So I'll make a template here, and then I'll be able to trace that template and sand down to the lines and whatnot. So that'll be fun once I get that started, right? Put my bandsaw to good use there, and I'm hoping that I don't mess up any blades. That's been one of my issues with my bandsaw is, having things get funky on me and having a blade twist or bind, and then it's another trip to the store and another $25 or $30 blade, and so I'm hoping that I can avoid that on this project. The turnings I think might take me longer than I'm anticipating, but what I'm going to do, these are going to be 18-inch turnings, and I'm going to drill a hole in the top and the bottom where they're chucked up, and I'm going to put a 1-inch dowel through there, right? So my lathe has a capacity of 18 inches. So to extend that, to have a piece that goes into the top and the bottom, the 1-inch dowel, I'll make it about 4 or 5 inches long, drill a couple inches down and a couple inches up into the center of the top and the bottom pieces, so that'll fit in nice and snug. Won't need screws, just glue it and it'll be good. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on right now. And I'm also working on a table for my wife. So we finally figured out what finish we want, and I didn't bring it out here. But she decided on the white 5% from Rubio Monaco. It's kind of funny. We wanted the natural maple look, and anything that I put on maple did not look like this natural color here. You know, it had kind of the yellowy oil look to it, which is actually really pretty, but just not the color we wanted for our house. And so the white 5% was subtle enough to where it didn't change the color of the maple. And so that's what we're using for that project. And, you know, the base is going to be painted white, and I think that'll just look sharp when it's all said and done. Don't really know why we decided to build a new table, other than the current one that we have is a little bit narrower than we wanted. It was kind of a rush job when we were building a house and had a kid at the same time. And I just wanted to get that in there and have something to eat at. And it's been 3 years. It's been a great table. We've got some friends at church who have 4 kids, and you know, they mentioned like, "Yeah, we need a new dining table." I was like, "Just take ours." Like I'm in the process of building a new one. So anyway, I'm gonna try and hurry up and get that in the house here in the next couple weeks as well. So 3 big tables in the works. The one with the farmhouse kind of X bracing on there, I'm going to do an oak top on it with a Rubio Monaco in chocolate on the red oak, and it's a really, really, really beautiful finish for red oak. They have dark floors in their house, darker than the chocolate, so that's gonna be nice for them. But yeah, what questions y'all have for me? Y'all are nice enough to hop on here. Can you talk about my experience with Monaco? Yeah, so I guess back in May, I did my first table in Monaco. I had a buddy, Matthew Marson. He's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We've met up at several, maker meetups and that kind of stuff. Really great guy. Check his work out, Mr. Matt's Wood Shop, I believe it is, or Mr. Matt's Woodworks. But he's a really, really good maker. He does this stuff full time. But he put chocolate on a red oak table, and I thought, man, what a pretty finish. And so I asked him about his experience with Rubio, and he said, Rubio's a really nice finish. It's called Monaco for a reason. You only need 1 coat of this stuff on there. And I said, well, I've got a turn leg table. He said, you're going to have a pain. It's going to be a pain, rubbing off all the nooks and crannies in those turnings. He said, but I think it'll be a good finish for you. So that table I actually did in cotton white. It took a whole I think 350 milliliter can, so it's about 12 ounces. These cans of Rubio, if you buy them online, they'll come in 2 parts. So they'll come with the actual hard wax oil and the accelerator. You can use this without the accelerator, but if you use the hard wax oil without the accelerator, this stuff takes, I think, 28 days to fully cure. With this accelerator, it takes about 7 days to fully cure. You can touch it without making fingerprints after about 24 hours. My experience with Rubio Monaco has been a positive one. That is my go-to finish now for furniture. The reason I really like it, if you've ever built a dining table or some coffee table or something like that, and you put a lacquer or a poly finish on it, if that finish gets scratched, it's a pain to fix, right? I don't think many woodworkers make a piece and just expect the finish to just last on it. So the cool thing about Rubio is that if you want to take, a piece that's been, it's got a scratch in it or it's got a ding in it, or you want to work something out of the finish, you can just sand it with 220, get the finish off, and reapply it. And the application process maybe takes 30 minutes or so for a tabletop. So it doesn't really take a whole long time. You do have to buff it out. For my tabletops, I always put 1 coat on, hit it with a 320 grit sanding pad, like the maroon pads. I don't know if I have any laying around here. But I got a 3-pack of those at Lowe's for like $10. And you can knock all the dust out of them and reuse them. But I always put a 2nd coat on just to kind of smooth the finish out a little bit. People talk about raising the grain on wood projects, and I think Rubio might raise the grain just a little bit. So I'll put that 2nd coat on there just to make it nice and smooth. The other benefit that I see with Rubio is you only have to sand to 120 grit with it, which most of us kind of hate sanding. So If you're like me and you want to skip some of the sanding steps, get it smooth, get it to 120, and then you're ready to apply Rubio. So that's a big benefit in my books, right? A lot of the people that I've been doing tables for lately have little kids or, school-age children, and we know that school-age children are going to color on them with markers. They're going to spill drinks on it. Moms might be drinking wine after the kids go to bed. If any of that spills on a Rubio table, especially with a white finish, it'll likely stain, right, if it's not cleaned up pretty quickly. I actually took a strawberry in our house and I rubbed it all over the finish after it had the white in there. And my wife was like, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Well, I want to show you this real quick." So I rubbed the strawberry in there, I wiped it off, and yes, the strawberry did stain the finish. But I came out to my shop, and in 10 minutes, I had it fixed, right? I took my random orbit sander, 120 grit over top of it, applied new Rubio Monaco to it, and it blended right in with the spot that wasn't stained. So it's really, really, really easy to repair, and that's basically, Mark, you asked about my experience with Rubio. That's really the reason that I'm going to it. It is an expensive finish to buy, right? It's a lot more expensive than your can of Minwax stain from Lowe's or Home Depot, but you save time in the finishing process, which in my books is worth it because when I was applying lacquer, it's getting my whole spray setup done, it's the cleanup, it's you gotta wait for it to dry, and then you can sand, and then you can apply another coat. Or if you're using wipe on poly, you can put it on thin and then do a little sanding to 220 sanding, hit it, knock down the rough spots, and then put more on and more on and more on and build that finish. But with Rubio, you really don't build a finish. You just put one coat on and you're good to go. Last thing I'm going to say on Rubio is that typically when I deliver a table, I wax the tabletop after I'm done, right? When I have it installed and it's set up in my customer's house, I wax the top for them just for that little extra protection from spills and whatnot. And wax works well with Rubio. It's a hard wax oil, so putting just a quick coat of paste wax on top, I think is nice for the clients to see that yes, you are going to take care of it. Here's a quick way that you can kind of protect it, if you want to. And Rubio dries to a nice matte finish, right? It's not a semi-gloss, it's not a satin. It's a matte finish. So putting that little bit of shine on it from, like a paste wax, it works perfect. It doesn't pull any of the Rubio out of there. It just sits there, floats on top, and gives it a nice little shine. Sierra, thanks for joining tonight. So would I recommend you using Rubio to finish a furniture project? 100%. This is a great finishing option. You can get lots of colors on Amazon. I have had an issue with Amazon sending me the wrong color. This was supposed to be white. They sent white 5%, but that worked out because we really like the look of this on maple. One of these cans I think will cost you about $70 shipped. But you talk about the time that you save by applying this finish. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm working for 20, 30, 40 bucks an hour in my shop, that quickly makes up for it, right? So this is a nice finish. It's not the most durable finish, but there's the kind of the trade-off, right? The more durable the finish is, typically the harder it is to repair it. And this is made to be a flooring finish, right? So if you can imagine like finishing oak floors or hickory floors or something like that with Rubio, they're going to last. The same is going to be true for your furniture, right? It's just the permanent marker that gets to it, or the the weird food that you drop on it, or the strawberry that you just grind into it. It's a nice finish. So yeah, what else is going on? Y'all are a nice audience tonight, hanging out. Any other big questions for me? So I did my drill review, talked about the tables that I'm working on, gave a little review of Rubio, and yeah, it's probably about time for me to hop off here and make sure that the kids are still asleep and then get back to it. So be on the lookout in the next couple days for some stories and some posts about the progress on the furniture projects that I've got going on. I'll have a couple pictures of the paint and the finishing process on this base that I'm sitting on right here in my shop with these farmhouse style bases. Again, they'll have the cross pieces on here, but I'm going to paint this first just to get in the nooks and crannies, and I won't have to hit that with a paintbrush. I'll be working on the maple table and hopefully finishing up my wife's table. So anyway, I appreciate you all joining me tonight. It's been nice hanging out with you. If you have any questions about the projects that you're working on, I'd love to talk with you about those. Just sometimes it's nice to have an extra set of ears, an extra set of eyes on a project. So yeah, you too. Y'all be well. God bless you all, and have a great night. Letha says hi too. Hey Letha, thanks for hanging out tonight.